Well, everyone, the numbers are in for last week, and the two big stories from the residential real estate market statistics are that the number of active listings, our supply of active listings for purchase, is still on the climb, and that the average sale price, the year over year, is starting to moderate a bit. So let's get into the numbers. First thing up is the number of active listings. That came in at 2390. The previous week that was at 2217. So that's definitely a big jump forward for what we normally see this time of year. And for a little bit of context, I went back to last year, roughly the same time last year, and saw that we are about 5.5% ahead of the number of listings, active listings we had last year. And this is the second week that we've had more active listings this year than we had last year. Up until about 2 weeks ago, that number had been reversed, and we had, in some cases, considerably more active listings to purchase last year versus what we had this year. So we'll definitely be watching that number and see if that trend continues and see how it continues to stack up to last year's market. The number of pending deals, so new pending deals, so moving from supply to demand, how much were buyers out there, did take a nice jump versus the previous week. So the previous week we're at 830. Last week we came in at 924. So that's 924 new contracts were entered into in the metro area. However, when I do go back to last year and see what the buyer demand, the buyer activity was like, that number was considerably higher at 1,037. So we'll be watching that as well to see how both supply and demand do this year versus last year. The number of homes that did sell came in at 761. Roughly the same time period last year, that number was 848. So we were selling more homes last year than we are this year. And I suspect that we're going to continue to see that trend throughout the weeks, the coming weeks here. How did the homes that did sell, how did they do on the market? On average, they were on the market for 15 days. Last year, that number was 18 on average, and the median came in at 5 versus last year, which is 4. Average sale price clocked in at $622,201 versus last year, roughly the same time period last year. That number was $558,262. That represents an 11.5% increase if we're just comparing those two pretty similar weeks last year to this year. Of course, keep in mind, always mention that we're dealing with smaller numbers here, so this number can be a little volatile. But when we do look at all of April, so now that we're towards the end of April here, or at the end, our numbers are finishing off the month of April. We did see the first couple of weeks really strong numbers at 17%, both for a couple of weeks, then 14.8. This week we're coming in 11.5. I suspect that means that we're probably going to be somewhere between 14 and 15% for the month of April, just comparing last year to this year. But when our RMLS statistics come out next week for the year-over-year average, they typically compare the first 4 months of 2021 to 2022. And that number has been considerably lower. January was about 14%, February was about 10%, March was around 11%, and I suspect we're probably going to come in somewhere around 12% when we compare the first 4 months of last year to this year. Let's see, average sale price versus asking price, that came in at 105.17. That's still really strong. Last year at this time, that number was 103.33. So that's a pretty nice number to see. Interest rates seem to be kind of a little more steady this last week, and it may be that buyers are starting to get used to those numbers, and that might be why we're seeing a little bit more activity than we kind of expected last week. I certainly wasn't expecting the new pendings to be as high as they were. Open house activity has still been pretty good, but not like it was last year. And the number of showings is certainly down from where we were last year. The number of offers coming in is down as well. When I did look at showing time, the lockbox opens, not for showing time, but the lockbox opens for Century Lock which is our lockbox company. We weren't as far, there wasn't as big a disparity last year versus this year. I'll get into those numbers in a video in a couple of days. So those are our numbers in a nutshell. If you have any questions about them, post a comment down below. I'm happy to answer them, or reach out to me directly. And if you're curious about what's going on in your neck of the woods, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to share what I know and to put things in context. Feel free to like and subscribe to this channel, and if you like, you can click down below to visit our website. We would love to engage with you there as well. All right, we'll see you next week.